Hello. Welcome if this is your first time, and welcome back if you're already family. I'm still with Lee, and I'm going to be with him for a while. Um, we touched on a lot of stuff in the last video, but that was just basically laying out the foundation. Now we're going to really talk about step one that he spoke of about reserving your rights. So, with no further ado, and when I say that, this is not a host in Lee, this is a forum. There's going to be other people joining whenever they get time. This is just us as family talking. So, anyway, here is Lee.
All righty. The first step to doing any of these things to do it correctly would be the reservation of rights under UCC 1308. And the reason for that is because when you file this document, it I don't know how to say it puts a lock on you to where when you comprehend what the document is doing, what it means, they can't get any further with you. It's a block. As long as you've not hurt someone or damaged someone's property, you're completely out of their statutes of law. So you can't be charged. Well, they can charge you, but they can't follow through with it. And so
So,
that's
I
what
have
this
a
document does.
question.
Right. And so that's what the document does. Is it removes you from uh, speeding tickets, uh, click it ticket, seatbelt tickets, fines for fishing or for driving or for anything like this. But you have to know and comprehend how and why that the document works. And so basically, uh, just the below basics, the
So I
one
have a
most
question
important
before you
thing.
start. Lee, I have a question. Would this
Okay.
be something if I already had or somebody already had a record? Could they still file for this rights
Yes,
reservation?
absolutely. Yes, you
Now,
can file for this at any time.
so say if I have a court date in a few months, I could file then and still try to take care of?
Yes, it's very wise to do that.
Okay.
It would be very wise if you have a court date coming up, as long as it's not for like, you're not dead guilty of murder or mortally wounded something. As long as it's a something drug related charge or no, we're not talking violent crimes. Okay,
Hmm.
this would be non-violent crimes where there is no victim and you are the victim. That's what makes the crime is because you're being victimized or you're being looted. And basically, they do that through statutes. And this it's a stopple to statute law.
Mm.
And the reason why is because you are not going to be able to, if once you reserve your rights, you can't be compelled to perform in commerce commercially under a contract that has not been fully disclosed 100% to you, which means, there's no way that they can disclose the truth because they're under a gag order to keep their commercial facade, their fiction up. And so that's what it means that you're not going to compel me to perform under that contract because you didn't fully disclose it to me, and that makes it fraud. You see, and so some of the questions here: if someone is receiving SSI benefits, can they do this? Absolutely, it doesn't. It doesn't do anything um, to your SSI or to your income or to your job or to your bank account. Uh, doesn't have anything to do with those things. What this basically means is that you're reserving your right to step out of their venue, out of their jurisdiction. Now they might still charge you or whatever, Okay, and in that case, you would just go ahead and let the officer do what the officer is going to do. And then once he has his paperwork and they serve the paperwork on you, you'll send it to the federal judge that you sent your reservation of rights to with a letter saying, I need this cleared up, please. And now it's his duty to call the county or call the state, or, I mean, if it's their own federal jurisdiction, which that's probably not ever going to happen. But if it was, then he knows automatically, and so they know what it means. Now, what they tell um, the officers and things, because all of the information is compartmentalized. What you find is that who usually knows things is a magistrate, someone who's just kind of low, and this guy will keep an eye on what's going on so that the judge and the prosecutor don't step in more than they can get out of. And so the magistrate will intervene. I've seen it a couple times. Magistrates intervene, and usually this person that knows, he's not going to be too hard on you anyway. And but anyway, so the first step of the whole thing, and a lot of people get you know sidetracked and don't know about the reservation of rights, and they
Okay.
do things out of place and out of line. So for it to be correct, the first document actually you should do, and you should do it before the expatriation document and all of them, but would be to reserve your rights. That's the first step. That's the absolute first step. And so once you reserve your rights, then you can move forward with the securing the uh, commercial vehicle that they have created when you were born.
And
Um,
that's us.
right.
Okay.
And when you secure that, what you're doing is you're putting a claim on that it belongs to you and not them. And see, when you do that, your claim has to be settled before they can do anything with it. And so when you put a lien through a financial statement on that, which that's kind of toward the end of it, when you actually put the lien on there, that's the last step of actually securing it. And so, but let's worry about this first step here first. But first things first.
Okay.
And so it's not going to do anything to cause any problems or ripples in your income or your job or anything like that, or your credit cards or your bank account or anything like that. What it means is that you can't compel me to perform under a contract that you didn't fully disclose to me. And so now there's a couple ways that you can um, sign things. Like let's say that a police officer would give you a ticket, pull you over and give you a ticket. You don't really want to argue with him because he has a gun and
Right.
he is not with the knowledge at all. And after this would happen a couple times, you would get a couple tickets. They put you on a list if you know to go in there and tell them that you can't be compelled to do this. And so they just put you on a list, and then when they call your license in or they come up and they see your license when they go back, they'll just come back up. I've seen this happen. It happened to my uncle several times, and he would just smile at him real big, And I even saw him. A police officer pulled him over and just parked right on his bumper on a hill, and my uncle let off his brakes and rolled back on the cop's car.
All right.
And if I really think if I hadn't have been with him, they would have beat him to death. But because there was witnesses, they couldn't do anything. And he didn't even get a ticket. He didn't even get a ticket for. He got a warning because he wouldn't contract with them. He refused to contract with them, and that's um,
And when you
what
say
happened.
refuse to
Yeah, yeah,
contract, that means he didn't sign a
exactly.
ticket.
Yeah. And so now, but I was with him one time when he did sign, and um, when he signed it, he drawed his name out, but he put under it reservation of all reservation of rights. All rights reserved. That's how he signed it. All rights reserved, and he put on it under protest, and he handed it back to the cop.
Mm.
and that the cop wrote him out a warning ticket when he did that. And so it's not like them to take a charge that they've got, that they've signed and they've drawn up, and then to recede on it. But because of the way that he did that, well, another thing, he wouldn't indulge his name to them. He told them, get it off of the tag. I remember him saying that. He's like, get it off of the tag. And so when he did that, the police officer went back to his vehicle, called it in. He knew his name, though. His name was in the system from the tag, because he come back up and he said, well, Mr. Mullins, see? And, so, it does work. And I've had people that have reserved their rights and done some different things in court. And so far, no one has come into any trouble but one guy who went through the process, but he didn't take the stuff and file it in the courthouse. He just had his paperwork, but he didn't take it to the courthouse and file it, and then he didn't send it to the federal judge either. And so they ate him up.
So some of these documents actually need filed and some don't?
Yes, correct. Now this one has to be filed. For it to be done correctly, it has to be filed. And the way of filing it, the first thing that you do is you take it to your local county courthouse and where you live, and you just go to the clerk of the court and you ask her to file the document. And they file it, from my experience here in West Virginia anyway, it's always filed in the miscellaneous book. And when I looked through the miscellaneous book, well, I was actually looking through the miscellaneous book to get the judge's oath so that I could get a certified copy of the judge's oath for a friend of mine who was going into court. Because when you present the judge's oath to him on the record, it takes his discretion away. So he can't use discretion any longer because he's under oath. And until you place them under oath, they're not under oath. But anyway, the guy that did not file, and all these paperwork was typed up and everything, and it was signed, but he didn't take it to the courthouse and he didn't put it on the book. So when I went down to get the judge's oath out of the miscellaneous books, I just flipped through and I found where I had reserved my rights. I found where I had reserved Patricia's rights. I found where I had reserved my uncle's rights, and the 4 or 5 people that I had actually helped them on their paperwork to, and that was it. There was no more in there. And one of the magistrates had come up and talked to my uncle about it, because we don't care. They think it's their domain, but we know whose domain it is. And he was discussing with my uncle how a guy got the living hell beat out of him for this in North Carolina. And my Uncle Bob smiled at him real big and looked at him. He said, well, that guy didn't know what I know. Right. And it's true. It's probably true. And so, nothing comes of anything. That's what we've noticed. When you do this, nothing comes of anything if you know what you've done. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I've never seen anybody hurt anyone and then try to use it. I don't think you could, because that's not part of the deal. But as far as these statute charges and things like that, and I even have a friend that runs around with no tags on his car, but now he's sued to get on the list. Okay, now he's actually sued the government over his reservation of rights. He sued them over it. And actually the guy here whose form we're going to use from the Copper Moonshine Steels, Captain, I can't think of his name, Colonel Sanders, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, his sons actually have taken it to federal court and been placed on the list. Now he told me that you have to sue to be placed on the list, but I think that you just have to get a charge, go in there knowledgeable and shut the charge down, and then they will place you on the list then, because they know they're not going to get anything out of you. And so with that said, okay, it's not going to interfere with anything. Now, as far as children, what a person would need to do is for the children would do it at 18 years old, but you're going to actually make a claim on your children in the financial statement that is in the next step. And so children, um, you wouldn't really worry about this till they turn 18. Okay, so with that said, now, so then the first step a person would want to do is to take this document to the county courthouse and file it. Let them put their numbers on it, let them put their timestamp and all that on it. And then when they process it, you're going to go and get at least two certified copies of it from them. And now I know when I went and got mine done, I took two copies, two originals, and I gave them an original, and I kept an original, and I had her stamp my original, which she did, and I still have that, but I don't carry that with me. That's a private document for my private record, and I have a copy of that, but I also have a certified copy from the one that I filed with them that I've retained for my own personal records too. Now, if I show it someone my reservation of right, I'm going to show them the courthouse copy.
Okay.
And so, you'll retain these for your records, but now you get two copies, one for you, a certified copy back for your own personal record, and then a certified copy that you're going to send into the federal judge. Now, what you'll do, you'll find out what federal jurisdiction you're under. If you would say get in trouble and with the Fed or whatever, then whatever courthouse that they would process you under, that's your federal jurisdiction. That's the courthouse that you're living in the jurisdiction of. So what you want to do is you want to go online and find out who the chief judge of that federal district is, and then that's the one that you're going to send the document to, registered mail, return, receipt, so that you get the green slip back once they sign for it. And when you get that back, you're going to retain that. And another thing you retain is the receipt that the clerk is going to give you at the courthouse. Now, I've got a friend that
I have a
actually
question.
Okay.
So the first step we'll file in our county. Now, if we get in trouble in another jurisdiction, you're saying, or a ticket, that's when we would do this next step, you're saying? Find out what jurisdiction it is?
Well, when you get that back from, when you file it, take it down and file it. Now, sometimes you can do it the same day. They'll give it to you the same day.
Mhm.
But sometimes you have a slower courthouse and they want to take their time processing the document.
Okay.
But when they get it processed, it goes into the book. It gets a book number where the document can be found. And from my experience, it's usually put into the miscellaneous book. And they file it as, it's called an instrument, I believe, when they, legal instrument is how they file it under. But anyway, so what you'll do, you're going to get certified copies from the clerk. Those are
Okay.
real copies of the document back. It's not the original document. They retain that.
Right.
Okay. And the court works on original documents. I don't know if you know that, but if you don't have originals, you really can't make much sense in court. And so, but anyway, you're going to get that back from them, and I don't know, you pay them maybe $5 or so, maybe not even that much for the copy from them. And now, when you get that copy back, it'll show where it's been recorded at, what book it's been recorded in, and what page it's at.
Mm.
And so, all that information's on that certified copy. That's what you're going to send to the federal judge. Because, see, it can't work. It won't work unless you send it off to the federal judge. That's an extra step that they put into this. I'll explain. There were some people in California that had went and were doing this, I think maybe back in the 90s. And when they did it, they just didn't want them doing it, and they moved the law from UCC 1207. That was where it was at first. And so they took it out of there. They changed one word in it, and then they refiled it over in another section of the law under 1308 to try to hide it again.
Mhm.
So, when it disappeared at 1207, we didn't know what to do. And so the thing is with it, okay, when it was 1207, you could just file it in your county courthouse. And when they turned it to 1308, they put the additional step of filing it into the federal courthouse. Okay, I don't know if that was for to trick you or what, because the federal judge, I've only seen them write back one time, and I don't know how many of that we've done, but I've only
Okay.
seen them correspond back to one of them. And I think the judge was actually hinting to us because we took the hint and we've used it. And what he just sent back that he was in receipt of the document. However, this is the way he drawed it out. However, I see no case in front of me. And what that told us was, okay, well, if we get a case, we'll send it into the judge and show him, which we've done that a couple of times and it's been dismissed. Now, um, so that's that's pretty much it. You take the UCC 1308 reservation of rights and you file it in your county courthouse. Get retain copies back from them with the book numbers on it, and then you will send it to the federal judge, to the chief judge of your federal jurisdiction, and you send it return receipt, certified mail, and then you make two copies of that. They don't have to be certified. Just take and make two regular Xerox copies of your certified copy, and then just put that in a regular envelope and send it to two lower judges in the same jurisdiction that you sent to the chief judge. Now make sure it's not magistrates. Make sure you send it to two judges other than the judge you sent it to. That way, there's three judges being served.
Okay.
Now, you just put a regular stamp on the other two and ship it to them. See, and so now once you do that and you get the green slip back, you're in the go. You're in the green to proceed further. And so that's your reservation of rights. And so the copper moonshine steels, that's a really good one because it goes with the expatriation documents as well. And it even references them in there. And on that, what that means is that you're expatriated from the uh, corporate United States and you refuse any expatriation back into it, or you're not going to accept an expatriation that expatriates you from the republic. So it's in the body of that particular document up here. And so then once you do that, you're done. You get that back. Your rights have then been reserved, and you retain the papers in a file at your home, and they're your private papers. And now, when you would need to use that is when you would get charged with something, and you wouldn't just flaunt it out in front of the police and say, "Oh, well, you can't charge me." Just let them do whatever they're going to do. Let them do whatever they're going to do, and then when they do it, they give you the number because when they charge something up, it'll have a number on there, a docket number. And so then you just write the judge and send him a copy of whatever it is they give you a copy of. You send it into your federal judge that you sent that to. And what to my experience happens is it goes away. That they drop the charge. And I mean I haven't seen them not drop the charge yet. Like I said, we had the one guy, Donnie, and he didn't take the papers into the courthouse and file them. He just had them. You can't do that. You have to actually record these documents. Now, the financial statement at the end before the bonds and because at the very end of this whole process, there's a bond and there's a promissory note. And so, the financial statement that all of that comes off of, you will not record that because from my experience, the people that get in trouble are the ones who actually record that financial statement. So you want to notice that. But we'll get into that when we're on that particular thing. And so all of this, all of these things, the first step to it actually is this step right here, the reservation of rights under UCC 1308. And that way you're protected. Because if you go filing the other documents without this protection, you're not really protected. Now, when you when you when you sign your name after you get this completed, you will always sign your name. Underneath of it, you will always write all rights reserved. And if it's something that you don't have a problem with, or whatever, um, you put on it without prejudice. Something that that you're actually doing, that you agree with, and you're going to sign your name on it. You will always put all rights reserved. Now, I myself, I have a stamper that's got blue ink. It's loaded up with blue ink, and I just put the stamper and stamp. I'll put my name, and then I'll stamp the stamper under my name. But I always put that stamp on there because here's why. If ever anything's challenged, I'll say, well, did I not have forethought enough to have a stamper made?
And what's your stamper say?
Well, okay. It says all rights reserved, UCC 1308, UCC 1207 old, all rights reserved without prejudice. Now, you can have another stamper made up that says under protest. I probably should get me one of those as well, because there's
Mm-hmm.
been times that I want to do it under protest, and so I would just write that out and put under protest on it, and not even bother stamping that, because the stamp says all without prejudice on there. But I mean, you can still stamp it without prejudice even if you're under protest, but it's just better to use your terms correctly. And so you would use under protest if a guy had you pulled over and he's giving you a ticket, see, and you would use without prejudice if you're signing your name on a, let's say, a driver's license application.
Okay.
You want to put all rights reserved, UCC 1308 without prejudice on there. And so that's how it works. And what it is, it's the same thing. If you watch a movie, at the end of the movie, what do you see at the very end after all the credits? It'll roll up, and you'll see, and watch for it. It'll say all rights reserved, usually around where the copyright's at on there. It'll
Right.
say all rights reserved, and so that's what it is. And I mean, it's been in front of our faces for years and years and years through the media of, well, look at even like a CD or whatever, you'll find all rights reserved on there. A lot of times on websites, down at the bottom where the copyrights are at, you'll find all rights reserved. And so it's definitely a part of commerce, okay? Definitely a part of commerce. And so you definitely want to have your rights reserved. I mean, all of these things, websites and everything, have their rights reserved, and we don't. So,
Right.
so it just makes sense to do it. And so, but
So
it doesn't interfere with anything like Social Security or retirement, pension plans. Uh, it doesn't interfere with anything. It doesn't. It does nothing for your rent or your bills. It does. That's not what this is about. It has no effect. It's kind of null. And but I particularly like this document because of the expatriation little clause in there, and it plainly states the laws and everything on that.
okay, I'll pull it up. This is the one I posted in the link, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it clearly states on it that you're not a United States citizen and you're not a 14th Amendment citizen, and it's claiming that you're a citizen of the Republic, and that you're going to reject any attempted expatriation of that status as being part of the Republic. And then it also refers to the 15 United States Statute at Large, 27th of 1868.
So we have to actually get this document notared.
Oh, yes,
It says
because this is why it's in the public. We're going to put this in the
Mm-hmm.
public. We're noticing with this. This is a notice. Another thing I like about this particular document is it has a little fee schedule on there. If you look, it's got a $250,000 fee schedule per incident. And I mean,
I'm trying to find that. Let me see.
Yeah, it's right above the affidavit. It says violation of my liberty. is $250,000 per incident, or
Yeah,
per
that.
15 minutes of any part thereof, wherefore all have undeniable knowledge. And
Oh
so
yeah,
when
I
you
see
put
it
things
right
like
here.
that, yeah, when you put it in the public like that, uh, you know, when you want to show up to court to collect your debt because the cop pulled you over and took 15 minutes of your time unnecessarily, and it's clearly on the document that they didn't have anything to say about, the fee schedule is a contract. And it's notice to agents is notice to principal. Notice to principal is notice to agent. And so they need to watch themselves. See, that's the point. You're not going to tolerate it.
Well, what I like about this, how we mentioned in the last video, it says, further, I am not a United States citizen or a 14th Amendment citizen. I am a state citizen of the Republic and reject any attempted
Expatriation.
expatriation. What is
Yes.
it?
Expatriation, which means
Expatriate.
which means from the republic that you're claiming there. You're claiming the republic right here on this document. And this is the first document. And so the next process would be to secure the commercial vehicle, okay? And then the document after that would be the actual expatriation, repatriation document. And so there's going to be maybe 6 or 7 documents with the next process of securing that commercial vehicle.
So
when I say
on
the
the,
commercial vehicle, what I'm talking about is what they set up at your birth for them to use in commerce, which, you know, they had no right to do that because you're being defrauded with that instrument the way that they're using it.
okay.
And if they've done that in that way, you're being defrauded. But if they created it so-called for your benefit, then you want to take that benefit and you want to have it. So this is the first step to correctly securing the commercial vehicle. In other words, you wouldn't want to actually do the next step without doing this step first, because you expose yourself, because you don't have the right to take the next step without doing this step first.
I'm looking at the document, and where it says, hold on, let me share it because I think I left that. Okay. Where it says, I see it's affidavit of reservation of rights. How would we do this? Would we just print this out, but then how would we put the name in? How?
Well, you actually need to just use this as a template to type your own document up. Just follow it word for word, and any place it needs that you can see. I mean, you know, you'll see where to put your information in.
Right.
See, and it tells you there. And so just type that up, because that's actually on a PDF file. And, you know, you just make your own document. You'll type it up. It's only 1 page. It's not that hard.
Right.
And so now, one of the things I'll recommend on this, just because, you know, we've learned, anywhere that we see the word signed, okay, we want to use the word autograph.
Okay.
So basically, where it says signed by Sujaris, this affidavit is dated. Okay, you'll put autographed by. We're going to use an autograph. And the reason why is because we want to get away from that signature. Okay.
So would we, so when we start signing our name, like at a school, with our children, anywhere, how would we sign our name correctly after we file this?
Okay, under your name, you're going to write all rights reserved, UCC 1308, without prejudice.
So that's always in every situation, because I remember you mentioned colon, our name, colon, last name.
Right, that's an endorsement. When you endorse a document, you're going to endorse it with a full colon, your first name, a hyphen, your middle name, a space, a full colon, your last name, and a period. That's the correct punctuation. And each of the first letters, the very first letter of each name will be capitalized, and the rest lowercase.
Now,
So like my name's Robert Lee Thomas, it would be full colon Robert with a capital R hyphen Lee with a capital L space full colon Thomas with a capital T period. And that would be correctly punctuated.
so
And actually what I could do, this is a trick. What you can do is you can put a backwards bracket. Like I could draw it out, full colon, backwards bracket, full colon, Robert hyphen Lee space full colon Thomas period backwards bracket to where they're pointing outward. Okay. And what that says is, hey, this is the only real thing on this entire document because it's not written in correct structure.
Right.
See? And
so it's just a word game. This whole everything is a word game.
Everything's a word game. That's correct.
So on this step 1, how long would we expect this to take to complete?
Maybe a week tops to get your green paper back, your green slip back.
All right.
I would say within the week. And so this would be the very first step. This is the very first step to sovereignty, actually. They've turned sovereignty kind of into a dirty word because people claim sovereignty, but they don't know what they're talking about. And they don't know what they're doing. And they've done things incorrectly and just done it so much that it's allowed them to come up with an anti-sovereign movement, which they hate this, believe me. They don't like this at all because this reserves your rights, which means you have rights. And they know that you don't have any rights, but they know when you do this, then you have some rights. If you know how to assert them, that's the important part. This won't do you a bit of good if you don't know how to assert it.
Right. So
go ahead.
I was going to say, so basically you put all the time, sweat, energy, money to be basically a cheat sheet for me and everybody else to do this the correct way because you've seen it work and you've seen situations. So now you know.
Right. And this was one of the safety nets that we had in our community, me and my uncle, when we were finding all these things out. You know, if we found something out, we would do it. But, you know, people aren't interested, honestly. People really are not interested until they get in trouble. And even the ones that are interested are scared to death to do anything until they get into trouble.
Right.
Well, you know, that's fine because we can get you out of trouble with these things, but it's better to have it in place before you get charged up by them. See, it works a lot better, you know, if you have it in place before you get charges. I'll put it that way. In other words, this is securing you where you're not secured right now. Once you do your reservation of rights, with just a small amount of comprehension, is basically this says you're not going to compel me to perform under a contract that you didn't fully disclose. Period. I'm not doing it. You can't make me. That's what it says. And so the reason for this is because just about every time that any kind of corporate fiction gets a hold of a signature, there's all kinds of invisible contracts added to it, all kinds of things that they can do on the books back behind the scenes. And so this is saying, you know, you pull that crap and I'm not responsible. That's what it means.
This whole situation to me just feels dirty. Like I feel like I would do this process just so I can feel clean. You know how sometimes you're sweaty and sticky and it's just, I want to do this for me and my children just because it's my right. This is my planet. Why am I paying to fish? Why am I paying to do anything that should be free? If I'm walking down the street and I see an orange, I should be able to eat the orange.
Right.
So it's just frustrating.
If you look on the document here, it says, I retain all of my rights and liberties at all times. That's pretty good, isn't it?
Right.
And in all places, nunc pro tunc, now for then, okay, from the time of my birth and forevermore. Further, I retain my right not to be compelled to perform under any contract or commercial agreement that I did not enter knowingly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I say fully disclosed, but knowingly is good. Okay, voluntarily and intentionally. And
So should we
furthermore,
change that knowingly to fully disclosed?
no. It's the
Okay.
document's fine. But
Okay.
here's the thing. If a judge may ask you, "What do you mean by this reservation of rights, sir?"
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to know how to answer him because he's allowed to ask you some questions and to test your knowledge. And if you do not know, they're allowed to disregard this completely. That's
Mm.
why you need to comprehend just a small amount of truth about it. Because
So,
go ahead.
excuse me, I was going to say, so what would be some common questions you could just think of at the top of your head, just for instance?
What do you mean? What a judge might ask
Yeah,
you?
that a judge might ask.
That's what he's going to ask you is what do you mean by this document?
Oh,
He'll ask you that. And so,
just
I
in
mean,
general.
yeah, always, it'll always be general like that.
Mm,
And he's not going to give you any clues or hints, but he wants to see your response.
right.
Okay? Because he is allowed to use discretion enough to say, well, this guy don't know what it is, so we can disregard. Because
Right.
ignorance of the law, they just have the way it is. If you're ignorant about something and so you're getting took, but you don't know about it, that's fine by the law. Seriously, that's fine by the law. If you're getting robbed and you don't do anything about it, you don't know about it, whoever's robbing you isn't hurting you. That's the way they look at it. And
So
that's pretty
what
shitty, but that's how they look.
so what would be a good
See, furthermore,
answer?
I do not accept the liability of the compelled benefit of any unrevealed contract or commercial agreement. And
Mhm.
so you can kind of see in the body of this one. Um, this is a really good document, though. I really like this particular document. Mine's not like this, actually. Mine doesn't have these things on it. It's an older form before it was refined so much. So I've got mine here.
See, the
But
thing with
the
this,
main thing is just getting this one done and getting it in, and it's for your own benefit.
right.
It's not that much to do it, and it's for your own benefit. And then you've got your rights reserved, and you can always, if they're trying to pull some stuff on you, write that judge and give them a copy. You don't never send your original copy. You always have a copy made of it. You see.
So children 18 and above, because I have an 18-year-old daughter, she could do her own reservation
Yes.
of rights. So what
Yep.
would I do about my 14-year-old and my
Okay. Now
7-year-old?
see, on that, that's in the next part. You'll put
Okay.
him on the financial statement.
Okay.
Children under 18, you'll carry them in your vehicle. Let's say it that way.
So anybody 18 and older needs to make a reservation of rights.
Yes, I agree 100% with that.
Okay.
Everyone.
All right. Well, that's step one, reservation of rights. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, just that this is the single most important document you probably ever file in your life. And to use it, when you sign your name, you just put it right on there. All rights reserved, UCC 1308, without prejudice. And if you're being persuaded by people who have guns around on a belt and who are threatening to you, go ahead and do whatever they're needing. And you put all rights reserved, UCC 1308, under protest. Because it clearly states you do not agree right then and there, right when you're signing it. But if it's something you don't have a problem with, you can put without prejudice on there. And then if they come back and there's something invisibly tied to that, usually you'll always do that with a bank. However, I don't recommend endorsing a check like that. I've had them they won't accept it because when you put that on there, that takes the liability from the endorser.
Mm,
See? So you're doing it under a limited liability when you sign in this manner, especially with something like a bank. You're like if you would endorse a check. I've done it and I've had them turn them down. And so, I'll just, if you want the check cash, just don't do it.
So you
I
just, in
mean,
that instance, signed what? How'd you sign it?
just regular sign your name, I guess. I mean, banks are picky about it.
But you
I've had
didn't
like,
use cursive.
yeah, you're gonna have to use cursive to do a commercial transaction.
Mm,
And that's why you're protecting your signature
right.
with this document. That's what it's doing. It's saying, I may have signed this. However, if there's stuff that's attached to this that you're not disclosing to me, tough pity.
So I wonder why when we go to banks, why we have to use our forefinger or our thumbprint sometimes if we're still
Because that's
signing.
that's a seal. They recognize that as a seal.
Mm.
It's a seal. That is your seal as a flesh and blood person, flesh and blood, real man with hands and legs.
Yeah,
Um,
do you see why I'm asking this question? Because they don't recognize us any other situation as a flesh and blood person, except if we're getting something or cashing a check or something. So that's why I
yeah,
didn't understand.
that's why if they're wanting a thumbprint, they're wanting your seal, and
Mm.
that's what that thumbprint. Um, that's one thing you want to make a claim to, like in the claim of the live life. That's one of the things that you're claiming is, the thumbprint. You can take a picture of me. Here's my picture. Here's my thumbprint. Here's my saliva. Here's my blood. That's my DNA. See? And
Hmm.
so that pretty much proves you're alive. And when you place it on the document and you retain the document, that's a form of identification. See? All right. So this is the reservation of rights, and that's the first step, and it's the most important one. It's the foundation of everything. And a lot of people will have a real nice building with no foundation under it. And they've built all these documents and they think that they're secure, but they have no rights to even do those documents. It's all based on this right here. Incorrectness,
Yeah.
to be correct.
A lot of people don't want to do the legwork. A lot of people are lazy, just don't, it doesn't even matter. A lot of people don't
Well, see,
unplug
what
from the matrix, even if,
we try and test these things um, through, and like I said, nobody wants to do it till you get in trouble. Then when you get in
right,
trouble, then you're open. then you're,
right.
so we've had lots of success, a tremendous amount of success. I've just seen it time and time again that this, you know, process has kept people from going to jail who would otherwise be going to jail. We've done some stupid things that's probably let them, we it worked, but uh, when you have an afterthought of it, you look at how that it worked and why did it work. You're like, good grief, they've made a fortune off this. For instance, we have one lady, she reserved her right. She went into court when they called her name. She went to the bar. She tried to give them a birth certificate, and they wouldn't take it from her. So she just dropped it, and then she turned around and walked out. They told her to come back 2 or 3 times, and she just kept walking on. She didn't listen to them. She walked right on out of the court, and she was there for drug charges. And she told them, "This is the person you." She had her birth certificate, and she said, "This is the person that you just called. What was it? I'm here as a third party. I'm making a special appearance as a third party intervener on the part of the uh, commercial vehicle." That's what. And she dropped. Well, she tried to hand it to them. They wouldn't take it, and so she just dropped it. And then she turned around and walked out, and the charges were dropped. It took, I think, 9 months. Took 9 months for them to take it off of her, but they dropped it, and she was
Mm.
scared for 9 months because she walked out of the court like that, but it was dropped. I told her, well, don't just don't go back. We wrote the judge. I don't know if he did anything or not, but the charges were dropped.
So this was her birth certificate with the capitals, and she was a third
Right.
party too.
Yes, but when I think this happened was they just robbed and robbed and robbed that birth certificate. They probably, I imagine they made a lot of money off of her doing that like that.
Hmm.
I mean, it's just speculation, but I would say that because whatever it did, it settled it. That's the thing. that it was actually settled, because if it's removed, it's settled.
Hmm.
So I mean, we had that happen one time.
Well,
Pretty neat. All right, so I'd say what would be best is to leave this one like this, and then do the next step.
okay. And what would step 2 be?
That's just going to be to get your documents right to secure the vehicle. Once you do this step and you get it back, then you can proceed to the next step, which is to secure the party there. It makes you a secured party. See, what's not secure is up for grabs, and so you want to secure the vessel. That's how that they can do this with this commercial vehicle they've created, is because they have it, and what they're doing is actually, they're like, for instance, the power company sends you a bill, and you get the bill, and you make a money order, a check, or a credit card payment, or a bank transfer. How are you going to pay it? You pay that bill with your hard-earned cash money that's in your pocket, okay, that you have, money that you have that you could go spend on something else, and you're spending it paying that power bill. Well, the power company takes that from you, and then they turn right around and they charge that the account that was created to pay that for you in commerce. So they're double dipping it. So that's what we want to do when we can audit the account. Is go back and look at how much double dipping each corporation did, because that is fraud. See? That's when it comes into uh, suing them.
At any point during this process, will we be able to see the double dipping?
Well, see, that's when you would take your Social Security number and go to a stockbroker and have him look up those stocks. You can see all the transactions in that way. Okay? And of course, I don't know, they'll probably charge you a little fee or something for doing it, but you can see what the accounts are, the names of the account, and the numbers and the routing number on it, and then the transactions on the account. And look, these I'm one of mine that I had seen had $300 million in it.
Oh my
And so, I
gosh.
mean, yeah. And I have a friend that told me he had over $800 million in two accounts that he had found. And so, yeah, and you find this with the Social Security number on the back of the card. That's the Federal Reserve routing number that coexists with all of this, what they're doing behind the book. Because
And
you got the book, and then you got the books.
right. So how again are they making these accounts with our corporation? Like, for instance, one had 300 million in it. Who made that account?
Okay, little Johnny's born. Little Johnny's come into commerce because little Johnny's mom signed and said, well, little Johnny's here. We need little Johnny to have money to pay for things. So it goes into the Department of Vital Statistics, runs up. They say, okay, little Johnny's going to make X amount of dollars in his life. They print it right then and there. Okay. Well, okay. That's already been cleared. Everything's already been cleared right there. All of the money little Johnny's ever going to need has been created. See? Now, not only, and because of the deal that they struck when they made the Federal Reserve, when they made the IRS, when they did all these things and shut the Treasury down and took the gold, they say, well, since you can't pay for anything, we're going to go ahead and pay for all of your cost of living. We'll pay the cost of living. Okay, so they're paying themselves. These are corporations that are charging you, right? It's also corporations that are charging those accounts that were set up when you were born, which are not you.
Right.
They were created as if though they were you, but they're not. And it's so that they can do this double dipping and keep all this. Well, look what they're doing. I mean, so it's nuts.
Well, this is just step 1 in reserving our rights. That this whole thing is mind blowing to me. Like, anyway, the land of the free.
Yeah. So, but it's good to do this versus not having this done.
Right.
Seriously. And honestly, they know that's what, when Morton come up to my uncle and told him about the guy in North Carolina that they took and beat the hell out of him and things, he was just telling us, you guys need to be careful with this stuff, which we are very careful with it. They don't like it when you uh, help people. I think
Of
it's one
course.
thing you help yourself, but they don't like it you help another.
Right.
But
Because
in
to
this
put
way,
it
each
blunt,
person can help themselves. See, if you know what to
hmm
do and you've got the knowledge, you don't need anyone to help you. You can do it yourself.
right.
And so that's what this is about: is sharing the knowledge of it.
All right. Well, on that note, that was Lee once again. And like I said before, the only reason we even came up to even talk publicly, like we talk privately, is because we feel like, and he's so knowledgeable that he just feels that he basically wants to just lay it out for you to play it out. So we all, because who would think to put a price on sovereignty? So
That's
that's
it.
exactly what he's doing, and we'll continue on. Is there anything else, Lee?
Now that's good for this one.
All right. Well, we're leaving for now, but not forever. See you soon.